Dan Hook and Evan Barker from here at Hook Outdoors. And this is the episode of Get Outdoors with Hook Outdoors for July 21st, 2021. We're going to give some lake information and a little fishing report here. And then at the end of that, we're going to talk about Evan's recent trip down to Lake Hartwell and to fish the high school nationals. And he's got some firsthand insight into that, and that is also going to be the site of next spring's Bassmaster Classic. So, I'm kind of curious to find out from someone that's been there firsthand. So we'll just get right to it here. Cave Run Lake sits at 730.4 feet of elevation. The outflow right now is 253 cubic feet a second. The inflow is 349 cubic feet a second. Average temps are going to run about 79 or 80 all over the place, ain't they, Evan?
Yeah. I was out yesterday and I seen as low as 78 and I seen as high as 82. So
yeah,
it's going to fluctuate a little bit during the day, but it's somewhere in that ballpark.
And we should be 88 this time of year.
This time last year, I specifically remember fishing a Wednesday night tournament last year in 91 degree water.
Yeah. I mean, we just haven't had any. The nights, I think, are the thing. We just haven't had enough nights where it's been, 78 and 79 degrees. These 59, 60 degree nights,
right.
You lose all that daytime heating. And especially with, the lake has been relatively clear despite all the rain we've had.
Yeah.
So, and it's harder for that clear water to maintain that heat. But, moving on from that, we'll get into what the fish are doing. Right now, well, it's not just right now, but overall, there's just been a really good bite on the crappie since
Absolutely.
This weather and the water straightened up back in the spring. It just has been. And just right now, the way it sits, it's a brush pile deal. If you want little crappie, you fish the brush piles that are in 15 feet or less of water. If you want the bigger crappie, you fish those brush piles that are in 20 foot or better of water. Find the ones that are on the banks of these creek channels, especially if you can find one where it's got a bend in it or one where two channels kindly intersect, or you have a run-in underwater in about 20 or 22, 23 feet. And these guys, these locals here, these guys that fish these things pretty regular, they've got them dialed in and they know exactly where they are, and they're tearing them up. They just it's just been, Cave Run is just really it's just an untapped wealth of crappie, I think. Absolutely. I think anybody that has the electronics with a live scope and all that kind of thing, I mean, you can go out there and you can just see them. You hit these brush piles and you'll see 50, 75, 100 crappie in every brush pile.
Every single one of them.
Yeah.
I was out yesterday and I was running brush piles, and I don't know, I probably, off the top of my head, maybe ran 30 or 40 yesterday maybe.
Yeah.
And well over half of them was just infested with crappie.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I could see 100 of them on my live scope.
Yeah. And it's been consistent all year, especially since this water straightened up from all that mess we had back in the spring. It's just been the crappie have probably been the most consistent fish on the lake this year. The muskies have been up and down. The bass, God love them, the bass have been, kindly on the lower end of the cycle, I think. We're kindly in a downward period of the bass fishing here, and I think I think fishing runs like that. I think you're going to have good years and bad years, and who knows why this year isn't as good as some previous years. But it is tough this year, especially if you're looking for big fish. Now, if you just want to go out and target 10 and 12 inchers, yeah, you can figure out a way, and you can probably catch a sack full of them. But at the end of the day, other than catching a bunch of fish, you don't really have a whole lot to show for it. But still, you can catch them out here. Minnows, white curltail grubs are kind of the deal right now. There's some of these new colors out there that I'm hearing about, like that, what is that one, like monkey milk and that kind of thing. But it's got it's more of a translucent it's a white with kind of a bluish hue, got some glitter to it. At least that's what these guys are coming in here and showing me to see if I can order it for them and that kind of thing. That seems like to be the real deal. But right now, it is a night bite right now. From everyone I'm talking to, well, it's just a hot. It's been hot through the day, and the nights have been really comfortable. But it's been a night bite, late evening, early morning. Anyway, there's not been a whole lot going on in the heat of the day. But if you're wanting to crappie fish and you live reasonably close to Cave Run, it's absolutely worth the trip coming down here. Catfish, there's been a real good run on the catfish here lately. The spillway has been really good as long as the rain holds off and they're not running 2,500 in the spillway and just a big white frothy mess all the way down through there. Again, it's cut bait, goldfish are kind of the big things. At times we can get bluegills here to sell, but we don't have any right now. My sources tell me that our suppliers run out, so we've got everything else but those. Again, there's a night bite on those catfish right now. I guess it's more of a thing of these fish move up shallower at night, looking for something to eat. It's the best thing I can tell you. The flats at Zilpo, the Clay Lick area has been pretty good. Warwick's has been a real good area. I know some guys have been setting out some jugs or some floats and that sort of thing, and that's been pretty good. And again, just the spillway in general, as long as it's not really just rolling out through there, the spillway is a pretty good area to fish. The muskie, not a whole lot to talk about right now because most of the muskie fishermen here, if they're a guide or whatever, they're going north and spending their summers up there. And even the locals that just fish for them all the time, they don't do a whole lot in the summertime just because of the mortality rate. If you are trolling and you drag a muskie up out of 20 or 25 feet of water, and especially if you take that fish out of the water to get the hooks out of it, that fish is as good as dead. They just don't tolerate a lot of stress this time of year. They don't tolerate a lot of stress any time of year, but especially this time of year with all the heat. What muskies I have heard being caught, and it's like that every July. I don't know what the science is behind it, and I've talked about it before, but for some reason, Leatherwood Creek, just off of Beaver Creek, they run up in there, and you'll have a 2 or 3 week window in July to where you can just really go up there and really catch a lot of fish. If that's what you choose to do. But we're coming towards the end of July. These water temps, granted they're not that warm now, but they will more than likely start on the decline here before too long, and we'll be getting more into that fall fishing mode, and the muskie traffic will pick up, and there'll be more to discuss on that route, and when some of the other fishing starts to fade as far as that goes. Evan's going to give us a little report about what's going on here with the bass fishing, and then we're going to talk about his trip to Hartwell for a little bit. But first, here's a word from Moorhead Rowan County Tourism and Joey Brown.
Hi friends, it's Joy Brown with Moorhead Rowan County Tourism. I'd like to invite you to visit our community to fish, hike, bike, explore, and so much more. We're home to the muskie capital of the South, Cave Run Lake, Moorhead State University, and the northern terminus of the Sheltowee Trace National Recreation Trail. To find out more, check out our website, visit moorhead.com, or give us a call at 606-780-4342. Remember, there is always more to Moorhead.
Yeah, so the bass fishing at Cave Run, for the month of July, I really think it's due to what we were talking about earlier with the lower than normal water temperatures. It's been, better than normal in July, especially for I haven't really got to fish much for the past, 2 or 3 weeks where I've been gone so much and everything. But the time I have spent on the water, I got to fish yesterday for a pretty good little bit and kind of see what was going on in the lake. Them fish are still there. You can still catch them. I had a pretty good day yesterday. I caught two or three good ones, and the rest of them around 12, 13 inches. So there's fish to be caught. It's the time of year where you can really catch fish shallow and deep with the grass that's really popular on Cave Run. I actually talked to a buddy of mine this evening right before I came in here to the store. That just caught a good one out of grass. Probably 3.5, 4 pounds. But talking to him, he's catching a few fish shallow, and I caught a few fish deep yesterday. So it's a good mixture. If you're fishing grass this time of year up shallow, your best thing is really to fish slow, unless it's really early in the morning. Right at dawn, and you're throwing a top water or something like that, or right at dark when you're throwing a top water. Your best baits right now is going to be dragging like a Texas rig, flipping a jig or something like that. Maybe even throwing something really finesse around the edges. You can fish those deeper edges and get away with the more finesse stuff, like a drop shot or like a shaky head, just to maybe attract a few more bites. Right. And big fish will still eat finesse baits. Like I said, I went out yesterday, and the biggest fish that I caught yesterday, I caught it on a drop shot. So you can still catch big fish on small baits. So, and to move on to deep fishing, fishing deep. I'm specifically talking about brush piles and things of that nature. Even running the bank, fishing deep. Fishing a jig, fishing a shaky head, drop shot, things like that. A deep crankbait can be really good if you specifically know that they're eating shad, and a big deep crankbait's always a really good option when they're eating shad. Right. And I had something happen to me yesterday on Cave Run that I really have never had happen to me here, and I don't know if I brought it from Hartwell or what, but I was fishing a brush pile yesterday, and they were absolutely going insane schooling on a point. It was weird.
Yeah.
I was sitting there. I was dragging that brush pile, and I'd hear them just busting, and I'd look up, and there'd be a school of them just busting like crazy.
Really?
And it just it's just like I was doing on Hartwell. I'd be dragging a brush pile, fishing a brush pile, whatever. And I'd see them busting. I'd pick up my giant pencil popper, and I'd fire it 70 yards out to them. And it was different. They wouldn't eat. Well, they would eat the topwater, but here's the thing: where I was fishing Hartwell, I was used to bigger fish eating them, and I was throwing a spook that was like as long as my foot. So I still had it on from Hartwell, so I just got it out of the box really quick and started hammering it. They were hitting it. They were swiping at it and jumping over it and all that stuff. I watched them, but they just didn't eat it that good.
Right.
And then I switched up and I actually lost one on a jerkbait halfway to the boat.
Yeah.
So I know that they were bass and not gar or something like that crazy.
Right.
So I did figure out they were bass, but that was just something that's never really happened to me before on Cave Run. I was just sitting there fishing my brush pile, and they would just come up everywhere schooling like crazy on shad.
Right.
But yeah, it was to kind of transition into Hartwell. It's weird that I brought that from Hartwell to here.
Oh yeah.
And it was still happening, but I guess that's just kind of a summertime thing. They'll live out deep and they'll suspend out deep, and they'll, if they're shad, they'll come up busting on the surface of the water in 40 foot of water. But for y'all that don't know, Lake Hartwell, it's in western South Carolina. It's it's half the lakes in Georgia, half the lakes in South Carolina.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It's like right on the line there.
It's a deep, clear reservoir on the Savannah.
Big too.
Yeah, big. 56,000 acres, I think. Yeah. Right on the Savannah River chain.
Is it pretty deep overall?
It is. Yeah, there's 150, 160 foot contours, but it's only right in the main river channel. The rest of it, it's consistently really deep. Like 50 to 60 foot of water, but the thing that I was doing out there at Hartwell was consistently that I was doing more than anything was fishing long points and long shoals that came out. I'd have my boat 400 or 500 yards off the bank in the middle of the lake, but I would be sitting in 25 foot of water throwing up into 5 or 6. And
and granted, it was July 4th in North Georgia, South Carolina, so I mean the heat was on you. But I mean, you could see where, given the spring and the weather right, that's a serious fishery. Isn't it?
It is. Hartwell is a very good fishery. I was fortunate enough; I got to spend a week down there, and between practice and the tournament, and I caught fish doing both things. I caught fish shallow and I caught fish deep. But the weird thing was about my shallow bite. So me preparing for this tournament, I probably mentioned it on the podcast before. how I expected I would go down there, and I was going to run way up a river. I was going to fish shallow. I was going to flip, throw a top water. And on the first day of practice, I did that, and it worked. And it worked very well.
Right.
But after that, I couldn't repeat it.
Right.
I just had one stretch of river where I could pull in there, and I got consistent bites, and they were good bites too, because I caught 2 of them.
Right.
And they're quality fish. And then one time we caught a good one, and had another big one follow it in, and we were like, oh, this is gonna be good. So we tried to expand. We'd run that was in the Seneca River there,
Right.
and which is where we stayed. And it was just a little creek arm about 3/4 of the way up Seneca River. And we tried it again. We ran way up Seneca River, which if y'all aren't familiar with Hartwell, when you run up the Seneca River, you're running in downtown Clemson, South Carolina. It was weird. It was really, you'd have to go under 15 bridges. You've got Clemson football stadium right on the bank. It was cool to see that.
Oh, wow.
Really cool. But it's right in the heart of downtown Clemson.
Yeah.
So I was running up through there with a million jet boats, because it was the opening day of practice was on a Sunday in June. So
it was a week before
packed.
4th of July.
It was absolutely packed. Ran all the way up Seneca. Tried to mess around with my pattern a little bit. Didn't really work. I'd get a few bites or off and on, but it wasn't really what I was looking for.
Right.
And then I went back out, and the rest of that day I graphed. We fished probably 14 hours that first day of practice. I probably only fished about 5 or 6 of it. The rest of the time was behind my Garmin.
Yeah.
And then we went out the next day, and we put in at in the Tougaloo River, which is on the southern end of Lake Hartwell. We put in at one of the South Carolina state parks, and put in there, which is about halfway up Tougaloo River. We probably ran 2 or 3 miles up this little creek arm that we seen. It looked good. And we got all the way in the back of it, and there was standing timber, there was overhanging limbs in the water, just a shallow fisherman's dream. Looked really good.
Sure, yeah.
And we got in there, and first thing, my partner Joseph, he caught about a 3-pounder on a frog. And then we seen 2 or 3 more come up and bite at it, and the water was clear still. We could see them come up and follow it, 2 3-pounders, but we'd take it away from them before they could eat it, so we didn't catch them. Again, we went back out and we tried to expand on it, and that was really the only place we could get it to work. So we knew that the shallow bite, and for the remainder of practice, we done the exact same thing. I just went out and I graphed and I graphed and I graphed and I graphed, and I think I ended up having like 125 or 130 brush piles marked on that lake.
Wow.
It got to the point where it was 95 degrees outside and just blazing sun. I was sitting there graphing. Everybody besides me was absolutely scorched, sunburnt, and they were It was different, because I was the one running the boat, graphing with the running the electronics and looking and all that stuff. And all Dad and Joseph would do, they could just sit there with their arms crossed. I mean, but that's just part of tournament fishing. That's you got to put in that work to get it done. And
now, did you have to have? I know you had to have a South Carolina fishing license. Did you have to have a Georgia license too?
Yeah, you could do either or. It's like
okay. So it was reciprocal. If you had a Georgia license, you could fish, or if you had a South Carolina license, you could fish.
Either way, yeah.
Oh, okay. How much is a non-resident license like that?
It's the cheapest I've ever seen it.
Really?
We got a 14-day non-resident freshwater fishing license for $11.
Shush.
Swear.
Wow, man, it's like
$11 for 14 days.
It's like $35 here for 7 days.
That's nuts.
It's even for a Kentucky resident, it's $7 for a day here.
That's wild. Yeah.
Wow.
That's
when
we got on the DNR website. We was looking through there, and we seen the prices.
Yeah.
I'd take a double take 3 or 4 times to make sure.
And that's statewide. I mean, that just isn't because it's where it's at. I mean, wonder how much it was for Georgia.
I don't know. I didn't check. I probably should have checked just out of curiosity.
I can't imagine it'd been any cheaper.
Right? Yeah. I don't think there's no way it could have been cheaper.
Wow, $11 for how long?
14 days.
Wow.
14 days. Yeah.
Wonder how much a non-resident license for the year was.
I don't know.
Probably not too bad.
It couldn't have been much more
at that price.
Much more.
That's amazing. Well, folks, there you have that. If you're looking to go fishing, go to South Carolina. It's a pretty cheap trip. Sounds to me like.
If you want to go fish cheap, South Carolina's
but you not only got Hartwell, but you got like what, Santee Cooper.
Cooper, right next to Hartwell. You got Lake Kiowee, Lake Jordan, Bugs Island. Curr. You got a lot of good fisheries.
Yeah, it's all right down there. Well, okay, we're getting down a rabbit hole here, but
back to Hartwell.
But yeah, how does it? I mean, it just sets up. I mean, it has to be a pretty good fishery because they have so many Bassmaster events there. I mean, they had the Classic there just a year or two ago,
Yeah.
and I think they'd had one there previous to that.
They had one there in 2013, 2015, and 2018.
And now they're having it again in 2022.
Yep.
They just came out with a schedule. So, well, I mean, they had already announced they were having that, but they came out with the rest of the Elite Series schedule. But so it must be, and I mean, I know how business works. I know these chambers and these tourism municipalities and such. They do pay money for these things to come to their town. But on the other hand of that, they're not going to go just for the sake of money and fish for 3 or 4 days and have 20 pounds of fish to turn in
Right.
either. I mean, they're going to go places where these guys can at least catch a lot of numbers, hopefully big sacks, but they're going to go places where they can catch a lot of fish too.
Exactly.
So
yeah. Hartwell's a very good. It's a very good fishery because you've got. Here's the thing: they always have that tournament in early March.
yeah,
So and where it's in South Carolina, it's warmer here or warmer there than it is here rather.
Mhm.
So when you get that early March bite going there, you've got a chance to have shallow pre-spawn largemouth, and you've got guys who go out there and they catch spots in 30, 40 foot of water. I will add, I caught a fish in the deepest I've ever caught a fish down there at Hartwell.
Oh yeah.
I caught a spot, sucked to the bottom in 41 foot of water.
Wow, that's a learning experience,
Yeah.
man. Because I mean, you stick with this career path you're on. I mean, you're going to have to learn how to do that.
I will add, Live Scope was my best friend. I think
Sure.
I think I had a crook in my neck after 7 days of fishing Hartwell. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest with you, all I did was stare at Live Scope for 7 days,
Yeah.
and it was fun though.
Caught a fish out of 40 feet. What'd you
40
catch it on?
drop shot, six
Dang.
pound line.
How big a pound? How big a weight?
I was throwing a quarter. Or I
Yeah.
might have had 2 quarters.
How long
at
does
the
it
time.
take that to hit the bottom like that?
Looking at Live Scope, it would fall a little bit faster than you would think because it doesn't have much resistance. Like a big jig or like a
Yeah.
football jig has a lot of resistance, but that little thin drop shot, and I was throwing just a tiny little Strike King dream shot on it. It would just fall straight to the bottom.
Yeah.
But it would fall quicker than you'd think getting to 41 foot of water. But
Yeah.
the thing about Hartwell, basically, I'll just give you the quick and skinny of what I would do. Like I said, I had 3 days of practice. I graphed for probably 75% of it. I had, over 100 spots marked. But the thing was, on the last day of practice, I pulled into a little creek between the two. I don't even know the name of it. I pulled into a little creek between the Tougaloo River and Seneca River. And it just cut back to the right, back up towards the northern end of the lake. And there was this little bend in it. And it had 3 different long points that came out and met in the middle with like a big bowl.
Mhm.
And on one of them long points, there was a buoy brush pile. So they do the same thing like we do here, where the department puts out buoys where they put brush piles to make it easier for people to find.
Right.
They had one of those there, and it was sitting in, the brush is way deeper there. They had it sitting in like 32 foot of water or something like that. And we just pulled up to it, and I dropped the Live Scope on it just to see if I could see any. It was loaded.
Oh yeah.
Loaded for bear, and they came up schooling. It was it was the nasty day in practice. It was raining and windy. It was the last day of practice, and they came up schooling. I threw one cast, caught a 3-pounder, and I was like, I'm not throwing a cast. We're starting here in the morning, pulling in there in the morning. I mean, we caught fish, but the thing was, I'd pull up to the point, I'd drop the trolling motor, I'd look on the Live Scope. And the way I would fish for the fish that I seen was, I would look at a group of fish, and if they were suspended up off the bottom, I basically knew that I couldn't catch them. It was weird. If I seen a group of them and they were suspended, 15, 20 foot, it was, I won't say that I couldn't catch them, but it was very hard to make them bite.
Right.
You had to throw pinpoint, you had to throw a dart straight through their heads.
Right.
And you had to drop straight through them. And if you dropped straight through them, they would fall it all the way to the bottom, and you could make one of them eat it. But the way I fish the fish is, I'd pull up to a point and I'd see a group just sitting on the bottom, and I
Right.
could see 7 or 8 fish sitting in one group. I could count them out.
Right.
I said, okay, I'm gonna catch them. Go ahead and get the net ready. That's what I would say. Like it was easy when they were on the bottom. I'd throw my drop shot through them. I'd drag it until I felt one. They'd eat it. I'd catch it, and then it was to the point where all I did was just run around on the trolling motor doing circles around the points, just stalking this group of fish, this school of fish, and all I done was follow the entire time. I'd follow. And the thing was, when you caught one, you'd bust up the school. It would take 3 or 4, 5, 10 minutes sometimes to get them grouped back up together. You'd find them again. I'd see them on live scope. I'd throw my drop shot through them. I'd catch another one. It was a kind of a long process because every time you caught one, you'd bust the school up, and then they'd have to regroup, and then they'd be somewhere else. It was a different way of fishing, but it was a fun way of fishing because I really got to tune in my live scope. And that's something I've really learned to really like this year is live scope fishing.
Right.
Not because it's really easy, and I mean I'll go ahead and clear up a common misconception with live scope. Just because you have live scope doesn't mean you're going to catch 20 pounds. It doesn't mean you don't have to have live scope to catch them. Whatever, you still have to really work for them to catch them. And that's what I figured out this week was even though I could see them down there, and I mean I was catching.
Still gotta make them bite.
Yeah, I was catching a lot of fish, but they're still. You can't play God that much. You can't control nature.
No.
Even though you've got a big expensive screen sitting on the front of your boat, you still can't control nature. You still got to make them bite.
Yeah.
But it was fun to do. It really was. I caught most of my fish that week on a drop shot, and I was throwing, like I said, on 6-pound test line, and with a 15-pound braid to a 6-pound fluorocarbon leader, just a really light 7'2" medium moderate Jenko rod.
Now it's more of, I guess Hartwell is actually, I guess what you'd say, a reservoir.
It is.
It's not like a TVA, like a generating lake where they pull current. It's more comparable to like Cave Run or Lake Cumberland or whatever. I mean, it's primarily, I guess, flood control.
It is.
I guess, yeah.
It is, yeah.
I wonder if they have the fluctuations in water level like we do here. Was there houses close to the water's edge like what you see some places?
There were houses. Here's the thing about Hartwell: the entire lake is a dock. Like there's the entire.
I've noticed that watching the Bassmaster tournaments from there. Yeah. There's if you want to flip docks, I mean, geez, you could live down there and probably never fish all of them.
Oh, if I was a betting man, I would be completely confident in saying that over 50% of that lake is covered in docks and it's privately owned.
Huh.
And it was unreal.
Yeah.
Because you go into a creek and I'd be looking for when I was looking shallow specifically, I'd be trying to look for a certain kind of bank to fish shallow, and even though it really didn't work out, I kind of wanted to have something in my back pocket to say if those deep fish didn't work out, I could go try something. So I'd go running around and I'd look, and it just got unreal, the amount of docks.
Right.
You'd be looking for one specific type of like overhanging limb on a bank or something like that, and you just couldn't find it because there was too many docks.
But were the houses like up further on the bank though?
They were up a little bit farther.
Yeah. Or I guess a better question, could you just tell, like, you can go around Cave Run here and you can look even at the tree line, you can see that this water's been pretty high in time. Was it like that there?
I don't think it doesn't raise as much as like Cave Run or Cumberland.
Of course, you got a lot bigger area. I mean, you got 8,000 acres versus 50,000 acres.
Exactly, yeah.
So, I mean, it would take a tremendous amount of water to raise a body of water like that, 20 feet.
Exactly, yeah. It didn't raise that much.
Okay. Ton of boat traffic over the weekend though there.
It was on the opening day of practice, which was Sunday. It was almost unbearable.
About anywhere you went, I mean, you just couldn't get away from it. That's amazing, and I mean that's a 50,000 acre lake.
Yeah,
I mean, you would think that you could find somewhere that you could get away from it.
It got to the point where I really wasn't interested in fishing anymore, just because of how many boats were running around.
Yeah,
and I just started graphing just because that was the easiest thing to do.
Did it slow down? Of course, I know it was pre-holiday week. Did it drop off much?
It absolutely fell flat.
Really?
It really.
The boat traffic.
The second day of practice, which was Monday, all the way through the end of the tournament, which was Saturday. That basically the only boats that were on the water was 400 some bass boats.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fell off that much.
Yeah.
Huh. I'll be darned. All right.
That was also the biggest tournament I've ever fished.
Really? Oh, yeah. I wondered about that.
398 boats.
Daggone. So I know it didn't turn out the way you planned. Where did you actually wind up finishing?
Somewhere, I don't know. I think it was somewhere around the mid 150s or something like that.
That's reasonable. That's a reasonable showing. I mean, it wasn't like you're a hometown guy that fished there all the time. Did any of your buddies fish pretty good down there?
Bailey and Adrian, they had a really good first day, but it kind of the way it worked on the school and fish, you was either 0 or hero.
And it's a little bit different deal too, like where you can only keep 3 fish.
Yeah, it was a 3-fish tournament.
So that really monkeys with things.
Bailey and them had a really good first day. I think they had right at 8 pounds or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they were setting really good and somewhere right outside the top 10 cup for nationals, which I was pumped for them. I was really wanting to catch them good that second day where they had a shot.
Mm-hmm.
I think I only had like 4 pounds or something on the first day, so I knew I was kind of a stretch to get there. So I was really rooting for them specifically for the nationals.
Mm-hmm.
But the school and fish bug kind of bit our whole little friend group we had down there. The guys that I text all the time and travel with on the BFLs. There was 3 boats of us down there,
Mm-hmm.
and none of us really caught them very good, but none of us really lost it either. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? None of us really had a god awful just forget it when you get home tournament. We all had not terrible showings.
Yeah.
And the funny thing was, the first morning of the tournament, like I said, there's 398 boats. My group there, we had 3 boats. We all drew within 11 boats of each other.
Oh yeah, what number did you draw?
What was it? Oh shoot. Oh, I'm 288.
So you were middle
Yeah.
middle back of the pack there.
I was boat 288.
Yeah.
Let's see. Keaton and Jaden were like 277,
Yeah.
and then Bailey and Adrian was 284.
Wow.
We were all that close. So, when takeoff
Yeah.
came around, we just sit around there and jaw for 2 hours. 'Cause that's how long it took everybody to get took off.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
So what time did it actually start? The first boat took off.
We took off at 6 o'clock, and on the first day of the tournament, I don't think we took off until 7:25.
Wow, so it took you guys an hour and a half
Yeah.
from the time the first boat was called.
But we just sat around there and jawed, talked
Then
about
what time did you have to be in?
Let's see. I took off at about 7:25, and I think the first day I think I was due in at 3:30.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I was.
Well,
due at
they
3:30.
even it out.
They do.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. The
Because
first.
they can't have 400 boats coming in at the same time.
Right. Yeah, the first flight, I think they weighed in at 1:30.
Yeah.
So, really, say if you got like boat 150 or something like that, the way they done the flights, you got a pretty short day.
Yeah.
Because it would take a pretty good amount of time to get you out, and then you're still not that high of a number.
Yeah.
So your flight's not going to be that that long either.
So being in that upper 200 like what you were really put you on the
Yeah.
water a long time. Yeah.
That's from fishing big tournaments this year. I pretty well realized I either want to go out boat 1 or I want to basically be the last boat out.
I get that,
Specifically
yeah.
in like a BFL, because like I said on here, in my first BFL I drew boat 218, and I wasn't due in until 4:20.
Mm-hmm.
And the way they do a BFL, boat 1, boat 2, boat 3, boat 4.
Oh yeah, once that first boat goes, you just you
They roll
keep
them
going.
out. But in the high school tournament that I just fished, the way they done it, whereas the national championship, they would do, boat 288, Evan Barker and Joseph Davis from Round County Senior High School. And
Oh,
every
just
one of them
drag it
announced-
out.
Yeah. But in the BFL, they boat 1, boat 2, they drew them out.
Yeah, they don't care what your name is.
So
they
like-
just want
yeah,
you.
yeah,
they
right.
want you fishing.
Yeah, so like takeoff in that first BFL was at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
I was boat 218, and I was taking off by 7:35.
Wow.
And I wasn't due in till 4:20.
Man, they
I
roll
had a
them
day.
through there, don't
yeah,
they?
I had a day. Yeah,
All
long day.
right, good deal.
But
Good deal.
Hartwell, it's a really good place for the Classic because they always, you can look back on past weights and all that stuff. They always have good weights there.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's spots too. A lot of it are
Okay.
big spots. That was kind of a misconception I had going into the tournament was I thought that the only spots you could catch down there was like 2-pounders.
Right.
And it maxed out. You can catch big spots.
Really.
You can catch real big spots down there.
What
So-
the guys that actually won it? I mean, did you keep up with that? I mean, as far as the guys that won it, what did they wind up with?
We actually talked to him after the tournament. The boys. I'm not sure who won the world championship, but the national championship. They have a senior night down there every year for all the seniors. You get a rod and some baits
Mhm.
and stuff like that, and you just get to hang out, eat some hot dogs, talk to Brian Latterman was down there,
Mhm.
several pros, and we actually in the line waiting for a rod. Me and Bailey and a bunch of our buddies. We talked to them. They were doing the same thing we was.
They just had to find a few more fish.
They were doing the exact same thing we was. They'd pull up to
Yeah.
the point, throw a top water, look at live scope. If they seen them, they would fish for them. If they weren't there, they'd go to the next spot.
Mm-hmm.
I think me personally, I just kind of overcomplicated the whole tournament because I really relied only on 3 or 4 spots that I was catching fish on, and I kind of bounced back and forth between those spots when I should have, just went out, expanded on what I was doing, and I should have just went more hunting in the tournament than I did.
Yeah.
But hindsight's 2020. So
Well, you learn. I mean, because like I said, if you're continue on this career path you're on here, one of these days you might wind up on Hartwell fishing for a big check.
exactly.
And it's,
I know the college trail goes to Hartwell some, so I'm starting that this fall, and I know that when I go to Hartwell, I'll already have about 150 or something brush piles marked. So that's gonna put me a leg ahead.
Yeah,
Put
sure.
me a leg up.
Sure. Well, all right, folks, we're going to wrap it up for today. We'll be back next week and talk more fishing and lake conditions and just what's going on with everything. And for me and Evan here, we just want everybody to get out and enjoy it. Come to Cave Run, try to catch a fish, hike a trail, whatever suits you here. And as we like to say, folks, just get outdoors with Hook Outdoors.